Hi guys, this is Claudia here,
And this is Christian.
and today we're going to be talking about our top 10 favorite games so far from 2023.
Yeah, so for in this list, we're not counting anything that released after Final Fantasy 16, and it'll start from January. So from January to Final Fantasy 16 is what this list is going to contain. We're going to talk a little bit about how we came up to our specific 10 and like the whole thought process behind it. I do want to say that this specific top 10 is our opinion. It doesn't reflect like what's truth. Obviously, everyone's going to have different opinions. This is just our opinion and how we came about it. So feel free to tell us how much we're wrong. All right, so how we came to our top 10 together. So the rules that we set up were we had to agree on our top 10, and how we kind of did that is we both made our own separate lists and ranked them separately, and then from there we had our like conversation as far as where we're gonna place them in an official combined list. So Clyde, do you want to tell them what we placed at number 10th?
On 10th place is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
So for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, where did you have it on your list?
I had it as 10.
And then I had it on 4th place as my list. And the reason why we ended up agreeing that it ended up being 10th place is just because when we went through the rest of the list, all the other games were pretty much in the same ballpark. This was the only outlier where we had such different opinions as far as where we would place it throughout the year. Do you want to explain why you put it in 10th place?
I didn't like the game. Here's the fuck I said I didn't like it. I've played the Zelda before, and this game didn't really feel like what I like Zelda to be. So that's like one of the main reasons. It just kind of doesn't make. Usually I'm down to play Zelda, and this one was kind of like not inviting to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest things about this game, and why like I know for a lot of people this is like first place, and for me it's 4th place. And even when I look at games that are going to be coming out, I don't think it's going to stay in 4th place. It's definitely going to drop further down throughout the year. And I think the biggest reason is just the game controls very funky. I think they're trying to do a lot on a Nintendo Switch controller as far as like mixing, like having combat tied into a lot of the same buttons that are built for crafting. Ultimately, I feel like they're trying to do a lot in this game, and it doesn't all hit its mark, especially for like a game that I expect The Legend of Zelda to be. So like you said, we played Legend of Zelda games before, and I vibe with pretty much most of them. And not that I don't hate this one or anything, it's just it's not what I would, I guess, want.
Hey, listen. No, it's just one of my favorite part of Zelda was when like that like slashing enemies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like when you just go and you kind of I don't know combat
About
part
combat,
of it,
yeah.
you know. And then this one didn't like even feel like it was relevant to the game. Like it was like.
Yeah, no, combat is very terrible in Tears of the Kingdom.
And it's like that's the main part to me that I liked about Zelda was the fighting part.
Yeah, so for me, it's always like the combat, the story, and then the puzzles. And this game, I feel like, in my opinion, lacks on all three. Because the combat isn't really, like you said, it's not really a priority. It doesn't feel good to fight enemies. The story is very lackluster, in my opinion. It, like, puts me to sleep sometimes. And then the puzzles, because the game is designed to, like, you can solve the puzzle however you want, they're really easy because you don't have to do the way that the puzzle's set up. You can just like kind of essentially cheat to bypass all the puzzles. So I haven't really found a puzzle that's like makes me feel smart. It just makes me feel like, oh yeah, just cheat my way across, you know. And it doesn't make me feel smart. It just makes me feel like, okay, like why do I even have this, you know?
And in my defense, like I thought about like wait, like maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance because it's like I don't play it a lot and like you know all that stuff. And then I thought like wait no, because if a game is good, I don't have to give it a chance. It will just be good from the get
You
go.
would want
Yeah,
to. You would want
I'll
to
just
keep...
wanna play it, you know.
Yeah.
And then I did play it, and it never like nothing about it was like oh stick around and keep playing it.
Yeah.
To me personally,
And especially
you know?
for you because you like pretty much all the Legend of Zelda games, like when you played Minish Cap, when you played Link's Awakening, even Skyward Sword, a lot of them you kept like, you know, you're interested in, you're invested in, you wanted to see more about it. But this one, like from the get go, you were kind of like, this doesn't
Yeah.
feel right to me.
And to me, it's not a good game because I had to be like, oh, maybe I should keep like forcing myself to play it to really check. And I'm like, wait, no, if a game is good, you don't have to like give it a chance.
You shouldn't have to force it. Yeah, you shouldn't have to
yeah.
force it. I think because we've talked a lot of shit about the game, I want to talk good things about the game because I do think the game is a really fucking good game, and I just think it has a different approach to what they want The Legend of Zelda to be moving forward, which is perfectly fine. It's just when I think of all the games that I like to play games with really good story, really good combat, and have more of a definitive, I guess, path to play the game. Not so much of this, you know, do what you want type of thing. So for me, that's the only thing that I feel like Tears of the Kingdom isn't meant for me. I think it is meant for a lot of people, it's just not meant for me because I like straightforward games. I will say though, for a game that isn't built for me, I do find myself playing a lot of a game that doesn't have the things that I like in it. So I do think it is really fun and it is really creative for what a lot of things that they're doing. Again, I just couldn't place it above a lot of other games that I feel like were more built for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My favorite part of the game in general, though, is seeing so many people have a lot of fun with it.
Right.
Because they get so creative and they do so much stuff, and you look like they're literally like having so much fun with all the random stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
And like that looks fun. Like looking at the videos of what they're doing and like looking at like other people's gameplay is more fun because they kind of build their own little world into like what the adventure they want to have and all that. And I'm like, oh, that's great, that's awesome for you.
Yeah, whenever I see those videos, I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. I'm playing this game wrong because I'm still wanting it to be a Zelda game. You know, I still see like enemies and I try to fight them, and then I see other people building like death machines to go fight their fights for them, and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this right.
Yeah, so the best part about the game was seeing how many people had a lot of fun and like creativity. Maybe we're lacking creativity, I don't know.
Yeah, it's also just like I don't mind creative games. Like I love Little Big Planet, I love Game Builder Garage. I like those type of games. It's just it almost feels like alright, for those type of games, like the creative part is the part of the game, right? In Legend of Zelda, it's like they have the open world, they have the dungeons, they have the shrines, they have the create your own thing. They have so many things going on that they can't do everything all right? So they definitely prioritized, you know, that fun building, crafting part, in exchange for things like a deep narrative and really cool puzzles and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So for number 9, we put Resident Evil 4 Remake. So on my list, I had Resident Evil 4 Remake on 5th place, and you had it on. What did you have?
9.
9th place. Okay, so you had it at 9th place. I had it at 5th place. So this again, like we're still somewhat far apart on this one. For me, Resident Evil 4 Remake it's a fun game. It's definitely the game that I remember playing, almost to the T, just like cleaned up and made better. And again, that's just fun. I can't go wrong with that. So Resident Evil 4 for me is a really fun game. It is essentially just Resident Evil 4 though.
It's just like the other one's better.
And I've seen it and I played it a lot. And it is fun for Resident Evil 4. It's just that I played it and there wasn't a lot there that really surprises me. To be fair, I haven't beat it yet. It maybe like the ending changes or something. But I mean, we put a good amount of hours in the game and it hasn't really felt any different. I will say it does feel a little bit harder. And the gameplay, you know, runs a lot smoother than the original game, obviously, and it looks way better. So it does feel better than the original game, in my opinion. It's just, again, it's something I've seen before.
I was hoping it was scarier.
Yeah.
Like I wanted it to be, because like I've played all the Resident Evil games and like I've been genuinely scared.
Yeah, like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7, you were like terrified. Like Resident Evil 7, we were scared to like go anywhere. You know, we were scared.
But with this one, it didn't have the same feel for me.
Not at all.
So it's like it's not that. And then I'm not good at controlling the
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it was so down just because I'm not good at it. Maybe
Right.
that's stupid. I'm not good at it, so it sucks.
No.
Because obviously it's not that it sucks. It's just I don't know.
It's not for you.
It's not, yeah. I couldn't really
There's games
have
that were
fun
better.
with it, you know.
Yeah. And I even, like, to your point, like, you didn't like playing Resident Evil 2 at all, but you liked watching Resident Evil 2. And Resident Evil 7, it was first person, so I think it was easier for you to navigate, but it was very, like, again, it was terrifying as hell. The Resident Evil 7 was freaking terrifying. But yeah, overall, I mean, the game is great. Like, it's Resident Evil 4, but I've seen it before, and It doesn't offer much that a lot of other games. That's why a lot of other games I think ranked higher. But it's Resident Evil 4, so for me, in my opinion, it beat out a lot of games. But yeah, ultimately in a combined list, yeah, it ranked ninth place.
For us, 8th place was a game called Space for the Unbound. This game is a really small independent game. I had a lot of fun playing it. It was really cute.
Where did you place it on your list?
It was number 7 for me.
Okay.
And for you?
For me, I put a space for the So for me, I actually put a space for the Unbound as 10th place.
Okay.
So
how come you put it so low? You just like the other ones better?
Yeah, ultimately it just came down to I like the other games like gameplay more, but the story was really really good. And this is one of those games that isn't my specifically type of game to play, and I relied a lot on the narrative to drive it through. But then when I was, invested in the story, I found a lot of little things within the game that were so much fun. Like, remember that super little, like, Street Fighter wannabe game?
Yeah, they had all the little side games, and you have so many, like, little... Well, it's not even little, because it's so much personality in the game, where you literally go around, and then the city has so much personality, and you become more, like, involved in it. And then, like, as you get to talk with, like, the people there, or, like, meet the pets that are all around the city, like, and you name them, and then, like, I don't know, everything.
And it has such a, like, 1980s vibe to it. Like, it feels like I'm watching, like, a Karate Kid type style of movie or something, or like an anime from the 80s. Like, it just gives that, like, nostalgic feeling that I liked a lot. And I'm not even from the 80s. I just, it's just there. Like, you just feel it. Like, they go to the arcade. Like, he goes to the arcade, and there's like an older guy who just like sits at the arcade like all day instead of going to work.
There's definitely a lot of personality and little details in the game.
Yeah.
And the story is really good. Like, amazing. And the reason why it's not so low for me is because I can see myself going back and replaying the game. And for the other ones, I don't think I'd ever go back to it.
Yeah.
Like when we're done playing it, that's it. We're done playing it. I'm never gonna go back to play it again.
All right, so for 7th place, we put Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. So for me, I personally put that game in 9th place.
I think I put it in 5th place for me.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. Like, down to, like, I never played a game with the
control scheme.
Yeah, that was really fun. And especially being the first time I've ever seen it, because I never had to control 2 characters in a game before. So that was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then also, like, the style of it, the art style was really cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes the camera did get a little weird, like, but...
Yeah, I think
that happens in all the games. Especially the way I move around.
Yeah. I think the 2-player thing was really cool. I really liked that. I think the voice acting was phenomenal. The story was great, especially for a Bayonetta game, because they're not really big story games, so the story was really good.
Well, it wasn't a Bayonetta game at all. It's a Cereza game.
Yeah, it's a Cereza game. And I do think it's really interesting. It's really cool, especially the fact, I wish like a lot more people gave it a shot. The only thing that I would say that really held it back for me is just that, like, it ran a little longer than it needed to. I feel like they could have cut some of the middle part out of that game, and it would have been a better, more impactful story. But overall, like, the game was just really cool. It's probably the most surprised I've been playing a game this year, just because I was interested in the game, but I didn't have, like, the most hype for the game, But then when I played the demo, I was like, okay, like, I see it. I see the point of this game,
And for number 6, we have a Nice Death. I placed Have a Nice Death. I placed it in number 8.
Yeah, so I placed Have a Nice Death in 6th place. So when I talk about games that surprised me, this was another one that kind of really impressed me. I'm really big in, like, the roguelike, just, like, try it again over and over again, stupid mentality, where it's like, you can play it for, like, an hour, you can play it for 10 minutes.
Wait, what did you say?
The roguelike?
You said that you're into that?
Yeah.
But then that contradicts what you say about Bloodborne. You say that you don't like Souls game because of the repetitiveness.
Let me finish. So,
hold up. Did I just catch Christian in a lie?
Stupid. Edit it out. Alright. I really like the repetitive roguelike in it, where you go through it, you try to get as far as you can, and then you kind of restart. I really like that in platformers. I think it really works really well. And I like the idea that you can play it for either an hour or 10 minutes, and you always feel like you got a good chunk of game out of it. Overall, the game was really fun. The art style was creative, and I just think it doesn't do anything new for roguelikes. Like, it's not like genre defining for roguelikes, but it does do a roguelike very solid. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with the game, you know?
I had fun playing it. It wasn't like a hard game. It was simple. Well, like, it wasn't like super easy to play, but it's weird because it looks so cute, but it's still challenging, you know? Mm-hmm. And I always think, I don't know why the games that look like that are easy. I don't know why I do that. But
It's because they have such a simple control scheme. You know, you jump, you slash, you run.
yeah, but it was actually pretty hard to play, it never stopped being fun, you know?
Yeah. Alright, so for 5th place, we have Like a Dragon Ishin. Like a Dragon Ishin, for me, I placed it in 8th place.
I did 6, so it was pretty close.
Yeah, so overall, this is where we kind of start like getting a little bit closer to each other. For me, Like a Dragon Ishin, the Like a Dragon series is a series that a lot of people always told me about. I just wasn't really interested in it. So when I played Like a Dragon Ishin's demo, I was very sold on it. And I actually was planning on buying another game. But because I played the demo of Like a Dragon Ishin and I was sold on that game, I really wanted to go see what the hell this game was. And the fact that it was a remake from PlayStation 3, from a game that never released in America, it was a fresh take, and it kind of felt new to me, but it felt nostalgic in the way the game is built, because it was very much a PS3 game, from like the way the open world is set up, to the characters, to the comedy. It is very much like in a weird experimental era of like games where you knew what a game looked like, but you're still willing to try to do weird things, you know?
I thought the script of the game was really good.
The soap opera of it all?
Yeah, like it was funny.
Yeah.
Like all their jokes and stuff.
I like that you run down an alleyway and then there'd just be like a bunch of gang members who'd be like, hey, get him! And then it's like, no, what the hell? I'm just running down the street. Like, what did I do to you?
Get him!
Or like, there was like one part I run down like an alleyway and this one guy's like, hey, he's a creepy guy, right? And he's like, hey, you want to come inside and get a massage? And then, like the guy's like, no, like I'm busy. He's like, come on, I'll do you a discount or whatever. And then the guy's like, nah, I don't want to. And he's like, oh man, I'm going out of business because no one wants to get massages. And he's like, alright, fuck it, like for the business, you know? So he goes in there to get the massage. And then the guy's like, do you want like the super like sexy massage? And then he's like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it, you know? And then like comes out of the room is like a big sumo wrestler guy. And then he's like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, we specialize in sumo wrestler kink massages.
No wonder you're going out of business.
Yeah, because nobody's interested in that kink. That shit was good.
Yeah, they have a lot of funny elements.
It's like a boss fight where you fight naked in a shower room. There's just butt cheeks everywhere. Alright. So 4th place, you want to just read it?
Well, for 4th place, we have Wulong.
Yeah, so for Wulong Fallen Dynasty, I have it in 7th place, and you have it in...
I have it in 4th.
So why rank so high?
Ranked so high because I didn't play a lot of the game, and I had so much freaking fun. And just with a little bit of playing with it. And then there's games that I've played like so many hours of, and I didn't have as much fun. And I don't know, I just really love how it feels like a Souls game, but it's not a Souls game at all. Cause there's something about it that it moves quicker than a Souls game.
Yeah, way quicker.
But then it's like also just as fun as Souls games. And then you have, I don't know how to explain it very well.
It's like, you can definitely tell that they took a lot of inspiration from Souls games, obviously, because they have that same setup.
It has all the best parts from Souls games and all the parts that I sometimes find irritating, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then the first boss was tedious.
Yeah.
That was like horrendous, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times when I play Souls games, by the time I'm over beating the boss, it just feels like
drained.
Like I can't even celebrate no more because I was so tired of like going through it over and over and over. But this one was like very like fuck, you know, yes,
Yeah.
you know, like I don't know.
this is the first Souls game that I ever played and beat, you know, and actually like kind of
But
made
could
me.
you call it a Souls game? Yeah, right?
It's
Or
a
no?
Souls-like. Like it takes inspiration from like a lot of Souls games, and it's very close to being like identical to a Souls game. The thing that makes
Oh,
it
the
very
fighting style is so nice and smooth,
Yeah.
and it's so fun. Like the way, like when you eventually learn it, it's so slick. It's so-
yeah, like the rhythm of like
Yeah.
parrying, slashing,
Yeah.
striking down their stamina.
I've never played a game and it felt so satisfying. Well, like if you're doing the right moves,
Yeah.
like it feels so amazing.
I like that the game is very punishing, but it has a lot of like accessibility features. So like as you play the game and you get better at it, it definitely becomes more forgiving, and it lets you make
Well,
more
if you
mistakes.
play right, it rewards you. If you
That's
play
what I'm
wrong,
saying,
it
yeah.
punishes you.
Yeah.
And that's like what the hell. Because like usually games, it's like there's not exactly a right and wrong way to play. There's just like you have, you know, here you go, figure it out.
Yeah.
But this one is like you play like this, you know.
I feel like this is definitely a lot easier. I mean, if people can get past the first boss, this was a lot easier of a Souls game.
And the purpose, I feel, of the first boss, like if anything, like the biggest purpose of it was to teach you how to play the game.
Oh yeah.
And then like if you don't pass the first boss, it's like you
You're
don't
not gonna-
deserve it. You don't deserve to play the game.
Yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun with Wulong Fallen Dynasty. The only thing reason why I ranked this so much like lower than most games, is just the story. Like I literally skipped every cutscene because I didn't care about the story. Story wasn't good.
For third place, we have Final Fantasy 16.
All right, so for Final Fantasy 16, I placed it in my second place.
I placed it in third.
So all right, so this is where we were really close. Our first, second, and third spot were essentially the same games, just in different order. Final Fantasy 16, we ended up agreeing that it's third place. Why did you put it in third place on your list specifically?
The only reason why I why I placed it on third was because I like the other two games more,
Okay.
and I've invested like a lot more time into them, and I just had a lot more fun playing it, you know.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it wasn't a fucking amazing game in itself. Like the whole game was an experience, you know. It was like from how beautiful it was drawn and so detailed and so like I don't know, and the story and I don't know, the gameplay, and fucking finally Final Fantasy 16 did the fighting style the way I like.
I think for me, Final Fantasy 16 would have been my favorite game of the year so far, just because I feel like it gives me exactly what I want in a game. It's just very straightforward. Here's where the fuck you go to play the game. You know, it's very obvious where if you want to go do other stuff, you can go do that. It's very obvious where the next mission is if you're very interested in the story, you know? So I never felt like I was losing that like momentum of the story by getting lost in the game. You know what I mean? Like I was just like story. And then like the fucking like boss fights are like the best fucking boss fights I've ever played in a game. Like the spectacle of everything was phenomenal. The story made me like, even like to now when I reflect on the story and the ending and everything, it was such a like perfectly satisfying ending, with also leaving a lot of room for like speculation of like what exactly happened. Like I'm pretty clear and I have my idea of what happened, but my idea is gonna be very different than somebody
Different
else's
people
idea.
can come to different conclusions based, and that's what good stories do, you
Yeah.
know. It makes you come up with your own like, I don't want to say theories, but
Yeah, and again, it's just such a satisfying ending. And there's always that thing like in a game where I feel like you either have like really good combat, but then like something else lacks. And for me, just the story was really great. The combat was really great. The only reason why I couldn't put it in my first place game was because I don't think it was like fully the next, how do I say it, evolution of this style of game. Still think there's some stuff that they missed, like there's some pacing issues where like it'd be like super high and super amazing things, and then go down to like a weird like side questing. But besides that, the game was perfect. So for second place, we have Star Wars Jedi Survivor. On my list, I have it as third place.
and for me personally, I had it on first.
So this is your favorite game so far that we played. What happened here?
Okay. There's not one thing about the game that was bad. or wrong, or that, oh, I wish this. Like, I don't know. Everything about it to me was perfect. And the reason why it's in my first place is because I can see myself going and playing it again and again and again for years. And like another thing too, I love that it felt very much like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was the biggest thing that made me feel like, okay, this is my favorite game, because it felt like it added so much story to a story that I already love, you know?
Right.
So I love Star Wars, I love the movies, and then a lot of times when people try to do Star Wars related things, it ends up being like, it doesn't have the same feel.
The same soul, yeah.
Yeah. But then with this game, it felt like I'm looking at a different part of the story that wasn't in the movie but could easily be there.
Right.
Like, if they wanted to talk about that part of like, okay, like what happened to these people, you know? When the whole thing was going on, like it feels like it's very much like there. It's in the same world, it's in the same like feeling, it's in the same situation. Like everything just feels very familiar.
Yeah, so for me, Star Wars Jedi Survivor does a lot of things, again, like Final Fantasy 16, where it's like an amazing story, amazing gameplay, and it flows very well, probably even better story-wise than Final Fantasy 16 does. And I feel like, again, like you said, like it perfectly encapsulates that essence of Star Wars in a way that does it its own too. It's not like repeating the same story. It's
Yeah,
a completely different story.
It adds more like depth
to the world and
into Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, it makes you feel like you learned more about what was going on, you know?
Yeah, I like that they are able to dive deeper into specific things of like the Jedis and stuff.
Yeah,
like
and there's
that.
so many things that you never think about Star Wars because but then there's so many people that were affected in different sides, different situations, and then that's like, oh, this is one situation that you get to see like what people were doing at the time.
Yeah,
and it felt very realistic.
The only reason I can't place it higher than my other two games for me is just the performance was choppy.
I don't care about that as much as I cared about the fact that it made me feel really good about watching the story.
I think any other year Star Wars Jedi Survivor would have been my game of the year. And it's just when I look at the other two games, there's a reason why they're above.
Well, for number one, we have Street Fighter 6, and I'm not mad about it being first place at all.
So where did you have it on your list?
I had it as second.
And I had it as first. So Street Fighter 6, you go first, because I have a lot to say about Street Fighter 6.
Well, I don't have like a whole shit ton to say about it, but I love how it's so versatile. For example, there's a lot of things that you could do in this game. Like, literally doesn't matter what type of gamer you are, I feel like you could have fun doing something in it, you know? And it's very, very inviting to people who have never played Street Fighters before in a way that makes it really fun to play or be a part of it. And it's ridiculously challenging for people who are big hardcore fans of it. So it just depends like how you want to play the game and how invested you get in the game. Then there's levels to it.
Yeah.
And you could just goof around and have fun, or you could take it serious and literally have like hardcore matches, like, you know. And then I forgot, but they have like those rank matches where you start learning like how to fight, and you can see that everybody who plays is like taking it serious and wanting to learn. And then I don't know, you kind of like learn. It feels strange to learn about a person in your screen. I don't know how to. Okay. So when you're playing with a person, you kind of start learning how they're thinking based on the movements they use with their character, right? You're like, oh, they're thinking, oh, they're second guessing this, oh, they're, you know, I don't know. And then you kind of get a feel of learning how you should counterattack depending on how they're acting or reacting. And that's crazy because I never had too much experience playing games with other people.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to
connect.
Yeah. That was like a really fun part of it, especially when somebody's taking it very serious.
Yeah.
And then you're like kind of scared of like, do I do what I know how to do? Because especially when it's the beginning of the game and you're trying to find out or learn your character, you were in this type of position where it's like, do I go and try to learn more about the character and try something new, or do I stick with what I know and I know I'm gonna win? And then you see that controversy, especially while you have two new people playing, you know? So that was really fun to experience.
So for me, Street Fighter 6 is my favorite game of the year so far. Probably my favorite. It probably will end up being my favorite game of the fucking generation. Just because when I look at my favorite like franchise, my favorite series, Final Fantasy and Street Fighters are like up there, right? They're always like, I'm always back and forth as to which one I like more. But in this year, Final Fantasy 16 and Street Fighter 6 both came out around the same time. And for me, Final Fantasy 16 doesn't do enough to take the series fully to the next like stage. Where I feel like Street Fighter 6 completely like not just erases everything that the last games did, but honors it in a way that also elevates everything. So it takes everything from the last 5 games and elevates them to the next level. It is definitely not just the next level of Street Fighters, but the next level of like fighting games. I feel like all fighting games now releasing after Street Fighter 6 are gonna have to take notes. They're gonna have to learn to see what Street Fighter 6 did so well and see how they can implement it in their own ways.
That's good.
It's just one of those things that for me it's groundbreaking. It's, you know, genre defining. Like you said, like people who don't play fighting games picked up Street Fighter 6. People who, you know, haven't played Street Fighter in a long time picks up Street Fighter 6. It brought people back not just into Street Fighters but into fighting games as a whole. And something that a lot of people don't know about like fighting games is that a lot of action-based like combat games take a lot of inspiration from fighting games. Like fighting games is like the building block of all combat in most action adventure games. So to see that Street Fighter 6 has now elevated like just combat in a game period means all other developers are going to be able to take notes and see how they can implement things like this into their games. And it's just one of those things that I can see this being not just genre defining but like game design defining, you know, like in a way of making a game that's perfectly accessible for everybody, from newcomers to people who've been playing it for a long time. Like the entry level to get into this game is so low, but the skill ceiling is so fucking high. So it's weird that you can fit all that in a game without compromising one audience for the other. Like Final Fantasy 16, to compromise their old fans to accept new fans, they have to completely change the way the game is.
I changed my vote. Street Fighter wins.
Street Fighter 6 is, for me, it's just one of those games that perfectly did what it needed to do. And it's such a refreshing thing that Street Fighter 5 for me damn near ruined gaming. Like when I played Street Fighter 5, it completely like took a lot of like what I like out of games, and Street Fighter 6 like did all that, like did like enough to make up for those mistakes and like more, you know, because they didn't need to do all that. They didn't need to go as hard as they went with this game, and they went fucking hard. And then I don't know, man. And also the fact that I'm gonna be playing this game for forever. This is probably one of the games this year that I will be playing nonstop for the rest until whatever the next game is, you know. Anyways, those are our top 10 games. That's our list. Do you wanna let the people know anything?
Alright guys, well if you like hearing us rant about no nonsense,
That's what we like to do.
like and subscribe and comment what your favorite games were this year, which ones you're excited to play that aren't out yet.
I think that's the crazy part, right? Is that these top 10 I think is
How
already...
is there more coming?
Bye.
Oh, what game are you most excited of that hasn't came out yet?
Oh, fuck, that hasn't came out yet?
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
it switches. And, alright, it's probably Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Oh, I want to play Assassin's Creed, bro.
Or Spider-Man 2. Or Sonic Superstars.
You can only pick one.
Bye.